I'm Little Miss, and today, episode 22, is brought to you by Scratch Kitchen, where we make everything from scratch.
Welcome to Yummy Mummy Podcast, a health and well-being show inspiring you to bring out your best self and live a delicious life. It is a wet Sunday outside and everyone is inside snuggled with their heaters on and scarves on. My pooch is curled up right behind me on my bed. I'm sitting in my bedroom with the blinds wide open. I don't normally do this, but I wanted some natural light to come in while I'm recording this podcast episode. No one's gone for any walks and it's quite windy and chilly outside, but it's also because we are in lockdown stage 3. When people have walked by during the week, I've been waving at them and I've been throwing a lot of people off, especially when we're going for bike rides. When we say good morning, good afternoon, and people just look at us like, no, you're not meant to be talking to me. And that's because we are being programmed. They're using the word social distancing when we really should be told to keep physical distance between each other. Okay, I'm sure you've all thought about this, but I'm actually witnessing this. I'm out and noticing people are freaking out when I'm riding past them. Mind you, I'm on the road, they are on the footpath. We are 2 meters or more apart from each other. But this morning when we went for our bike ride, it wasn't really raining, it was trickling a little bit, but I promised my daughter we have to go every day and we're going to keep that commitment because normally we walk about 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. And now we're not doing we're probably doing like 1,000 a day. So we've got to keep active. We've got to keep moving. We've got to keep expressing through movement to keep our immune system healthy. The gentleman this morning that was going for a jog was a bit taken back, but it didn't register straight away. He said hello and then he giggled because he realized what was happening. He turned around and because I had already ridden a little bit further, he yelled out, "Thank you!" And it just filled my heart because that is exactly what I was doing. I want people to be aware that we are allowed to be social. We are allowed to connect. We got to do it differently now. We've got to find other ways, like through the internet, online. There's so many apps now that have been created where we can connect. And, podcasts are quite good as well to listen to podcasts or watch videos, to ring your friends, use your voice section of Messenger and send some voice messages. Why not? Start trying the new apps, icons and features on all the social media ones that you use. So that's what I've been doing. We also have been drawing outside on the concrete footpath and leaving subliminal messages when people walk by about health and well-being, fruit platters that we've been drawing, and words like breathe, meditate, sleep, and emojis, just so people can be aware that what is happening at the moment during this global crisis can be shutting us down and forgetting how to self-care and self-nurture. What it's doing, it's creating a lot of fear of the unknown. We're all thinking, what's going to happen next week or in a month from now? Let's just focus on right today. Let's take time to breathe and reconnect with ourselves. And that's something that I had been doing for the last 2 years. So I'm now an author, very proud of myself for this. It's a stepping stone to becoming, I'm co-author going into an author. I should probably have said that I was in a collaboration book and I'm starting to write my own book. It's so funny because the chapter that I wrote for this book, A Message to Your Younger Self, took me 2 years to write, 4,000 words. However, it only takes you 15 minutes to read it. And when I put 2 and 2 together, I realized, what am I doing? Why am I taking so long to write my actual book? I've started 3 books. On one of my books has got 8 chapters. So what is going on, Lisa? But what's happening now with this global crisis, it is waking us up. It's making us realize that we can unplug ourselves and start to learn who we truly are and bring out our best qualities. And the person that I'm bringing on today is Mathew Stephen, which has written a book called, I'm going to get it right now so I can read it to you. It is called Free Range Humans, Exposing the Matrix Control System and Awakening Your True Self. Now you can buy this online. I'll let you know where you can get it from. Kindle, you can buy on the Apple app, Rakuten Kobo, Indigo, Nook, and you can also buy it from Amazon, Lulu. If you go into his website, seedsofawareness.com.au, his landing page will take you straight to where you can purchase this book. Now, the blurb of this book, I'll just read it to you. A great spiritual awakening, a new age of consciousness is occurring on earth. Many are remembering who we truly are. After having been programmed since birth and imprisoned with the matrix control system, humanity is beginning to realize that nothing on this planet is as it seems, and that we are being farmed for our life force energy by the elite rulers of Earth. They manipulate humanity into endless conflict and strive to rule us with the age-old game of divide and conquer, all as part of their ongoing agenda to enslave us within their technological prison known as the New World Order. Free-range humans takes the reader deep down the rabbit hole and will make sense of the intense and seemingly random chaos occurring on Earth right now. What is revealed in this book is shocking and is only for those sincerely seeking truth, spiritual growth, personal freedom, and metaphysical understanding. Join us as we work together to transcend the matrix control system and use the great challenges we face as catalysts for the evolution of human consciousness. Mathew Stephen. I first met Mathew through Facebook because he uploaded a picture of his garden, his vegetable garden and his fruits that he was growing. And for me, I resonated with that because I was at a time where I was trying to grow more fruits. And I have succeeded. I grew 1 apple this year. Last year, I had about 4 apples. I still need to learn. Permaculture is something that I am not very good at, but I'm getting there. And so when I connect with Mathew, I reconnected again with him once this global crisis set in. And I had a bit of a chat with him and asked him if he would love to come onto my show so we can talk a little bit about what is going on in his perception. You know, how can we bring out our true selves? How can we nurture ourselves? And also, what aren't we seeing? Because a lot of us are focusing on the coronavirus, COVID-19, but what is actually going on at the same time? With me, 5G is rolling out in my area, and that's something that I'm concerned about. So we talk about that as well. When I went to Mathew's Facebook page this morning just to get a little bit more information and some images so I can use it for when I'm promoting him, I found an absolutely beautiful post from one of his friends, and I want to read it to you. I'm going to quote Magdalena Anna Yagubietz. She gave me permission to read this out. Mathew Stephen has been a massive inspiration and a joy in our lives, but also a big, beautiful challenge to consistently seek and explore important questions and answers. Questions we all have about what life is and why does it look the way it does right now. Always questioning the system, because if it's there, in place, it's our responsibility to put it under pressure, to test if it's genuine, if it's there to serve and protect us. Sometimes spiritual, sometimes down to earth, but always with an open heart and an open mind. I really wish for many people to read this book. This book is a process, and it could be a great healing process for us as a collective community. To challenge the status quo and read between the lines. To see the good, but also realize there is a big shadow. To realize that there is more to see, even if not through the eyes, but through the heart and other energy fields. If all you see is darkness, look again. You may be the light. Thank you, Matt, for always being the light, and a cheeky little Fruit Loop with some of the best dad jokes going around. Magdalena, thank you so much for writing that and allowing me to share that with everybody. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring on Mathew Stephen. Hi, Mathew. Thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
You're very welcome. So how are you going at the moment in this time of our lives?
Yeah, good. I mean, like everyone else, I'm pretty much in isolation, but which doesn't change my life too much, actually. I live a pretty isolated life. But it's just, I'm still quite busy with a lot of things going on. And so, yeah, doing well.
That's good. Yeah. Well, your book would be keeping you really busy at the moment. You only launched that last week, I believe. And it's called Free Range Humans, Exposing the Matrix Control System and Awakening Your True Self. So tell me a little bit about the reason why you started to, why you actually wrote this book.
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing it for 3 years, actually. It's been a real journey. And initially I wasn't going to release it as a book. It was more just me, journaling and writings like my meditation and, or sort of more like my therapy, and how I kind of like process and integrate thoughts and experiences I'm having. So I just started writing down a lot of crazy kind of experiences I was having and things I was learning and kind of personal inner transformations I was going through. And at some point, I just thought, you know what, this could possibly be of service to others. And I can see the structure of a book taking place. And so, yeah, here we are. It kind of turned out that way.
Yeah, well, perfect timing, actually, because, with what's going around at the moment, we've got a global crisis. This is perfect for anyone that wants to read a book. You do have it as an ebook and printed version, and I'll put all those details in the description for you to purchase. You do also have a sample which is available. That's fantastic. They'll also be on your website, which is seedsofawareness.com.au. So, Mathew, I've got you on today. I'd like us to discuss, in your perception, what's really going on at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's a big question. There's a lot of information out there at the moment, and there's a lot of truth, but there's also a lot of misinformation. So it's a really important time to try to stay grounded and try to stay level-headed. I definitely don't agree with the mainstream narrative that's going on, which is that that this was released by someone eating a bat. And that we should all basically be in a lot of fear and hysteria. The mainstream media headlines are very fear-mongering based. So I think that that there's a possibility that it's something that we need to take quite seriously, but there's a possibility that it's being really blown out of proportion. I'm seeing a lot of evidence in that, and a lot of question marks being very, very good question marks being raised over the effectiveness of the tests people are getting that makes kind of declares them as positive with COVID-19. So that's probably the thing I would recommend everyone do, is just question everything, because so many times in the past, whether it be with Ebola, SARS, swine flu, whatever, Y2K, whatever crisis was about to take out humanity, when the dust settles, you find out that a lot of these doomsday claims are actually pretty unfounded. And there's a lot of level-headed doctors and people saying some much more balanced things right now, that they're just getting kind of lost amidst the craziness of hysteria. So my personal opinion is that it's something to take serious, but possibly not as big of a threat than we're being led to believe.
Okay, so while people are watching now and listening, they may be having this question of, well, what do we do then? Like, what's something that we need to do to help ourselves awaken our true selves, to bring that to the surface?
Well, I mean, in terms of in terms of the coronavirus sort of crisis that's going on, I think we need to sort of look at who serves to benefit from this. And when you look at crises that have happened in the past, they've always kind of like there are sort of powers behind them that benefit from making people or putting people into a massive state of fear and panic. Because when we're in a state of fear and panic, we are much more willing to give away personal freedoms and powers that we otherwise never would give away. And the concern that I have right now is with all these extreme draconian measures that are being taken place, like we're being forced into lockdown, there's threats of fines if we hang around with too many people and all this sort of stuff. They're quite draconian, and we can justify them in our heads because we're like, okay, well, it's extreme measures, it's emergency measures. But what you find if you study history is that often the government rolls out these measures in times of crises, but then they don't fully take them away. And they love exploiting crises, and they love amplifying it so that it serves, provides them with more control. I mean, after the September 11 attacks, the government was able to use the fear and terror that people were in after those attacks as an excuse to basically completely destroy the Patriot Act for US citizens and take away a lot of the personal freedoms that they had before, and start to implement a really intense totalitarian surveillance state that's sort of starting to edge them more towards what it is like in China. And so that's what I'm trying to sort of encourage people to do, to be discerning, to take practical measures. Like I don't see any problem with isolating. I don't see any problem with, especially if you're a high risk person, like an elderly or someone with a compromised immune system, taking care of yourself, really taking care of your immune system as well. Things like getting plenty of sleep, good water, fasting, juicing, eating healthy foods, getting plenty of sunshine and fresh air, exercise. These are all the things I think boost the immune system. Vitamin C, vitamin D, whatever works for everyone. But at the same time, trying to stay level-headed in the fact and discerning and understanding that there are powers out there that love exploiting situations like this. And there's powers out there that roll out these draconian measures. But as I said, they might not have the intention of taking them away completely. They might roll them back a little bit, but we often find that a lot of the things that they have rolled out in this emergency situation will stay in place. And we've all of a sudden lost a whole lot of our freedoms, and we accept it because we're in such a state of fear. So for me, it's about being practical, taking the precautions, but not getting caught up in this state of fear right now.
Yeah, I did put something up recently saying that, when we're in fear, we start to look outside of ourselves for the answers. So when we get told, okay, you have to stay home now, and you can't go out, and also we're in Australia, so our regulations at the moment is that we are not to be seen with more than 2 people at a time going out to places. I did go out for walks and for bike rides, and I did see people that were more than 2, but they were families. So that's a bit hard. How do you go 2 people at a time out with your children when, it would be really hard to kids to understand, why can't I go with mum and dad? So for me, it's like, okay, we need to pull ourselves back in within our heart and start looking at the answers within ourselves. So like you said at the beginning, let's get grounded. How do we become grounded? What's a technique that we can share with our listeners and viewers that can help us to draw ourselves within so that we can actually dissolve the fear?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the first step I would say is really switch off from the mainstream media. If you're someone who's watching the news every day, trying to read stay up to date with all the latest death tolls and reading all the headlines, you're going to be in a state of fear. The media is designed to keep you in a state of fear. That's what gets your attention. So yeah, I highly recommend staying away from that. But also, And in terms of the media, you know, as I said before, like questioning everything we're told, there's a lot of different opinions coming through that give you a very different narrative. And so just don't blindly believe everything you're told in the media. And in terms of like when fear comes up, like it's natural, like fear is a natural emotion. It's got a real purpose in nature. Without fear, our ancestors wouldn't have run away from those, kind of predatory animals, and we wouldn't be here. If we didn't have fear, we would. It's a survival mechanism, basically. But the problem is, in nature, you know, an animal escapes a predator, and then all of a sudden, like, they're in fight flight, and that fear puts them into that fight flight response. They get out of danger, and all of a sudden the fear evaporates and their body comes back to normal. But the problem is when we're tuned into the media, when we're tuned into this mass fear and hysteria, we feel like the threat is always at our doorstep, always nearby. So we're in a chronic state of fight flight. We're in a chronic state of panic and fear. And so we're constantly pumping adrenaline and cortisol into the body. And so for me, the most important thing is acknowledging that fear is a natural emotion, but that unless we're in direct danger right now, fear is pointless. Fear is actually only going to destroy our immune system and send us into a chronic state of paranoia. And so what I do when fear comes up, I take a deep breath, and rather than getting lost up in the monkey mind with all its swirling paranoia and thoughts and anxieties and things that could go wrong, I breathe, I connect back to my breath, I come back into my body, and I come back into the present moment, and I look around me and I go, is there any actual danger to me right now? Are there any animals running at me? Are there any people coming at me with guns and swords? Is there anything actually dangerous right this very second? And there never is. Right now, everything's calm. The birds are chirping outside. The sun's shining. Well, it's not shining today, but you know what I mean. Everything's normal. So it's basically about bringing yourself back to reality. And the only way we can do that is by coming back into the body and coming back to the breath and coming back to the present moment. When we're lost up in the head, it just lost up in an abstract realm of paranoia and craziness, the monkey mind, and it serves absolutely no purpose. All it does is keep us in this chronic state of fight flight. It activates the reptilian brain, or the R complex, which is the part of ourselves that when the reptilian brain is activated, we're in survival mode, but it shuts down the prefrontal cortex, which allows us to think clearly. So that's it for me. It's just coming back to the breath and actually just sitting with the fear, feeling that energy in the body and just allowing it to move through you. And maybe sometimes I just need to go for a walk, or I need to go do some weights, or I need to go let that energy out somehow in a more constructive way, other than freaking out and going and buying toilet paper or something.
Yeah. Well, when adversity comes at you and you're faced with it, you automatically, you go through that fight or flight freeze mode. And for me, what I do, I like to switch everything off. Like in this case, I would say 2 or 3 weeks ago, because it has taken me this long to figure out, hey, how am I going to podcast this? I need to figure out what to do. Who am I going to have on? So thank you so much, Mathew, for being my first guest in this time, because I haven't done a podcast this year. So welcome to 2020 Mummy Podcast. And so what I do is I switch everything off. I switch off the Wi-Fi, the main switch. And I've got a daughter, she's 9, she freaks out, Mum, the internet stopped. I go, yep, it's time, we're shutting off. And we jump on our bikes, or we grab the cat, put the cat in the little trolley outside, because our cat self-isolates all the time. So he's super excited at the moment to get lots and lots of fresh air. Get our dog, and we go for really long walks. So we go for long bike rides down the creek, and that helps me. Or sometimes another good thing that works for me is jumping in the shower, just starting all over again. It might be the afternoon. I sometimes actually do it after a huge day of running a masterclass or a podcast session that has had so much information, and I have to work out, it's marinating, so I have to understand it well, so I know what kind of content to write. I go, I'm starting again. I'm just going to jump in the shower, wash my hands, start again. That also helps.
Mm-hmm.
But the big key we take away from what you're saying and what I'm saying is that expression of movement. It's really important that when we are in the fear and it is taking over us and we're overthinking and we're starting to react with our symptoms that like anxiety, so our solar plexus starts to go on fire, we need to move through it. So either the breath, like you're saying, or going out and walking
Mm-hmm.
or doing
Mm-hmm.
activity like weights. Yeah, that's really good. But then picking up the phone and talking to people about it, that can tend to send you into more of that spiral into the fear again because you're not taking a break. So
Yep.
I think what we're saying here, the key point is here is yeah, move, let it express. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. So in saying that,
Totally agree.
you're welcome. Thank you. And so what should we do in this situation to nurture ourselves? We've spoken about one area. And I know you've got other things that you've said as well, which is, foods. Let's get into foods because Yummy Mummy is all about bringing out our delicious parts, but also it's about yummy foods. And I put up lots of recipes and different ways to show people how to eat. I teach the chi cycle and how to build cosmic energy through certain foods. And I know this is something that you're really interested as well. We've had little discussions privately about this, like high vibrational foods, I would think is one of them. So if you can explain to me what kind of foods we should be eating.
Yeah. I mean, I don't follow a system anymore personally. Over my journey, I've really sort of grown to realize that there is a vibrant intelligence in every one of our cells in the body, and the body itself is vibrating with an incredible intelligence. And so for me personally, that is always guiding me every meal of what my body needs to sustain itself at a high level. And it changes. What I realize is when I trust the body a lot, it changes. Some days it might be a higher fruit day. Some day it might be a bit more cooked food. Some day it might be higher protein. Some day it might be higher fat. I think there's so many different factors for me personally based on seasons, based on what I'm going through hormonally, what I'm going through spiritually, whether I need to be more energized or whether I need to be more grounded. I try not to intellectualize too much why my body needs certain things, but I've personally found that when I trust it, it's always actually guiding me. So, but in general, there is general rules, obviously, that I can definitely say work in terms of like eating more locally or homegrown foods. I have started a veggie patch the last 6 months, as you've seen on my Instagram and Facebook, and eating foods grown directly from the garden. Oh my God, the feeling you get, like you literally feel the life force in your body so much differently than something that's been, stored for weeks on a shelf or shipped thousands of kilometers or shipped from overseas or preserved in a can or something like that, or cooked to death.
Yeah, Matthew, does all your fruit and veggies make it into the kitchen? Because for me at home, when I'm outside and I'm gardening, I'm eating my tomatoes and my veggies while I'm out there. I don't think much ever gets inside the house. I've only got a small garden, but I've seen yours. It's quite big. So do you grow a lot that can be brought into the kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot where I'm out in the garden and I'm like, well, I've had a pretty solid hour or two of toiling, so I think I deserve to pick that and that and that and just eat it on the spot. And that's such a beautiful experience. Like literally eating it seconds after it's picked is just incredible. But luckily, our patch is quite solid now in terms of size, so we get a fair bit of produce. But yeah, so for me, eating as many raw homegrown foods, things like that, I definitely notice a really big difference. I'm a big fan of cold pressed juicing. I try to have a cold pressed juice, at least once a day, and I feel really good off that. So yeah, I mean, they're just the basic principles I go by, but I try not to give too much specific advice personally in terms of telling people to follow this system or that system, because I just find it is quite individual sometimes. And I try to encourage intuitive embodied eating where people actually fully trust their body intelligence, letting it guide them.
Instead of trusting the email that comes through from Uber Eats.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's
and there's so many.
It's happening a lot now. Like, I am hearing a lot of, when I'm chatting to a lot of my viewers on Instagram, privately messaging, and that's why I wrote a program recently based on that, ordering too much Uber Eats within the week, because that's what I was noticing with my research, that a lot of people were doing because they were so busy. And now I'm noticing we're not so busy, we've got the time, yet people are saying there's not enough food in the shopping centres, in the grocery stores, so now they're Uber eating. And I'm not seeing that. My perception of it is there is a lot of food there, but the food that I'm buying isn't what the masses are buying. And when I go and get my, let's say, buckwheat flour, and I go in the flour section, all wheat flour is gone, but everything that we eat, which we stay away from wheat or gluten products, there's lots of other products out there, but people aren't going to it. Like, for me, the only thing I couldn't find once was broccoli, so I got broccolini, and but I didn't complain. But that's what I'm noticing. Like, people are on the internet too much. They're on their phones a lot. They're on their laptops. So when they're getting these reminders and these ads coming up about Menulog and Deliveroo and all these other the Australian ones, I don't know what the overseas ones are like. So it's reminding them, oh, how easy is it just to have food delivered? But is that, is that, and I'm speaking to the viewer now, is that you really making that decision that you want the Uber Eats, or is it them advertising it to you? Because Matthew's saying that we need to, listen to ourselves and our body, what we want. So maybe, like we said, turn off the phone, turn off the internet, and ground yourself and listen to your body. Give yourself some time. I mean, how much time does a person need to know how to listen to themselves? Some people might need a few minutes, some might need a whole day of no internet noise, so they can make that decision. And speaking of internet, can we touch on the subject of internet? Because is that something that will reduce our immune system?
I mean, I'm a big kind of I don't know what the right word. I don't know if critic's the right word, but I think that Wi-Fi fields can definitely have negative effects on our health and the energy fields of the body. Like, the more you look into, especially the world of quantum physics and the body, you sort of start realizing that there are electromagnetic fields all around everything, but especially our body. The brain emanates an electromagnetic field. The heart emanates an electromagnetic field. And if you look into the research of the Heart Math Institute, they've found that actually when two people come into contact with each other, possibly even over distance like we are now, our electromagnetic fields are actually transferring information just like we are transferring verbal information. And also there's an electromagnetic field around the planet, which we're also in resonance with. So there's all these all these electromagnetic fields everywhere, but they're natural electromagnetic fields that are conducive to our health and allow us to be in symbiosis with each other and with the planet. So all of a sudden, over the last 10 years in particular, as Wi-Fi has become like ingrained in everyone's houses and basically switched on 24/7, what we're now bathing in are these artificial electromagnetic fields. So a Wi-Fi router sends out this electromagnetic pulse that carries the information of the internet, but it's an artificial electromagnetic field that, in my opinion, isn't in harmony with the natural fields of the body. And so I think that when we're bathing in them too regularly, we're basically opening ourselves up to a host of negative effects. And so my wife and I, we still use Wi-Fi because it's just practical with a few people in the house. But we make sure that when we're not using it, we turn it off. And especially at night, I can't stress that enough that turning your Wi-Fi off at night is so important. It's so easy. Our Wi-Fi router literally just has a button you press and it turns off, and you just press that button again in the morning, it turns on. So it's really no big deal. But when we sleep, our brain and our heart and our body get into a very specific electromagnetic frequency that allows us to get into a deep healing state. So I think that when we're bathing in a Wi-Fi artificial field overnight, we're compromising how deep our healing can go when we sleep. And we've noticed that because we've been turning ours off at night for years, we have when let's say we have to sleep somewhere like a hotel where you're swimming in multiple fields, or sometimes I stay at my wife's parents' house where like we don't turn it off because we don't want to intrude on their normal habits, or if we just accidentally leave it on here, we really notice it. We wake up feeling really crappy, but people are just used to that now. So I think it has a lot of negative effects, but there's also things you can do even when it's on around the house during the daytime. Here we have certain crystals and certain stones that that supposedly counteract the negative effects. But also when you build up these toxic energies of the Wi-Fi field in your body, it's important to go outside and discharge that every now and then through earthing. So get your bare feet on the earth and discharge those energies out into the earth. I think
do you need to be mindful of that when you're earthing?
As in like consciously think about it, is that what you mean?
Yeah. Do you need to have that in your mind? Like if you're letting your kids have that time to take their socks and shoes off to go outside, do you have to let them know so they know what they're doing? Or is it just a natural law that we know that if we leave the Wi-Fi, that the earth is actually going to take that from us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it happens naturally, but I definitely think it can possibly be enhanced by, the mind is a very powerful thing. So, and it'd be a great thing to teach children because, if they know that if they grow up knowing that when they're in the house and the Wi-Fi is on, they're possibly building up this artificial energy in the body, which if not discharged can actually cause disharmony and disease in the body, in my opinion. So knowing if they can learn that and learn that one great way to discharge it out in the body is to go outside and get your bare feet on the ground and actually visualize that, I think it would definitely add a fair bit of potency to it.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that knowledge. My mind now starts going to the towers that are around because I turn mine off all the time. The constant switch on, switch off. Daily, my daughter and I, where we have it. And definitely before going to bed, boom, it's off straight away. I actually turn it off and unplug it because I don't want to see the lights going on because I just think that it's, black balloons. Like we had that commercial that time. I've never forgotten about the black balloons. It's a waste of energy being used. And
yeah, true.
Being a single mum myself, it's like I'm trying to keep all my costs down as much as I can because single income earner, and I want to be a double income earner for myself so I can provide for my whole family. And so the thoughts I have now is about these towers that have gone up, and I've actually done lots of research to find out what's going on for me. And I'm in the middle of 3 towers, so it's a bit of a trifecta for me. And 2 have been switched on for 5G, 1 hasn't yet. And in my area where I am living, in the Whittlesea area, no other 5G has been turned on. So it's like, oh, of all people, me, what am I going to do? But what happens then? If I've turned my Wi-Fi off, what are these towers doing? Because they're constantly letting out those, what do you call it?
EMF. I would just call them EMF pulses, frequencies, fields. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. So with 5G, it operates on a very high frequency bandwidth. So what that means is like the lower frequency bandwidths like 3G and 4G, they're kind of slow, long waves. So they travel further distances. So they can plonk one on top of a hill and it will send out long, slow frequencies that travel for kilometers and get inside of houses quickly. But being long, slow frequencies, they're not as potent in terms of like damaging to our health. And those frequencies have been around for like over 100 years. We've been bathing in them for a long time. And a lot of people believe that also correlates with the rise of cancers and diseases we've seen in the world, which possibly there's a correlation there. But 5G
Can I just stop you
operates.
for a minute? So
Yep.
you just said 3G and 4G have been around for 100 years. Where from? Where did it come from?
Well, sorry, 3G and 4G haven't been around for 100 years. I meant the thanks for correcting me there. I meant the radio wave electromagnetic frequencies. They've since we basically introduced radio and satellites and basically with the introduction of radio towers. So we've been able to receive radio frequencies for a very long time, and that's radio frequencies are very long, slow EMF waves.
Mhm.
So that was introduced a long time ago, like 100 years, but then the amount we've been bathing in and the types of potency of what we've been bathing in has just grown exponentially. And in the last 10, 15, 20 years with the introduction of 3G, 4G, 5G, it's just like, whoa, like escalated big time. So with 5G, they're really fast, high frequency waves like that. Now, the thing with high frequency waves is they're really potent. You wouldn't want to be bathing in those frequencies for too long because they do a lot of disruption to your body's cells, but they're terrible at passing through objects. They don't pass through trees well. They don't pass through brick walls well. So that's why to get this 5G grid properly online, they're going to start placing what they call small cell towers on basically every 50 to 100 meters on the streets. But that hasn't been rolled out yet. But even then, even with those small cell towers everywhere, they're not going to get into your house easy. They'll travel into your house, but they won't be very potent. So what they rely on is for you to have an amplifier, like a 5G modem or a 5G phone or a 5G fridge. They want to transition everything to smart devices, basically, so your house becomes a smart house that's connected to what's called a smart grid. So that means your toaster's a smart device, your phone's a smart device. And when smart, this is what they're calling them. I don't think they're actually very smart.
I'm laughing because I'm like, I was thinking that, yeah, they really picked a good word, didn't they? Because we have a choice if we want, I feel like I'm a smart person, but I'm not going to offer this.
It's part of the marketing deception of it. They, you think, oh, everything's smart, so unconsciously, like that's a smart thing to buy.
But the good thing is we have a choice. Like from what you're saying, it sounds to me, I have a choice if I want to get 5G router to enhance it. I have a choice if I want to have a microwave or a smart toaster or a smart fridge. And that actually makes me feel like I have freedom, because at the moment, a lot of people are saying we don't have freedom. And I'm like, well, that's not in my perception. I think we do have freedom. We have a freedom of choice. And we can choose whether to have it or not. So thank you. That's actually made me feel a lot better that, I'm not, because we all have a bit of fear. We all go through it. And I was a bit worried about the unknown about this 5G, because where I am, I feel much better now because mine is like 400 meters, 950 meters, 1.2 kilometers. But what you're saying is it's not going to be able to.
No, I'm not as, when you really look into it and understand it, you realize it's a definite threat, but the fear people are getting in around it isn't as necessary, because as you just said was the point, really good point that I was about to get to, which is that we still have the choice as to whether we want to let it into our house. Because if you buy all the smart devices and convert your house into a smart house, and as I said, your toaster, your fridge, your microwave, your phone, your oven, everything. They want everything to be a smart device. Your toilet, everything. And your watch. If you buy all that and that will all catch the 5G frequencies being sent to your house, and it will amplify it massively in your house. So the people who fall for all that smart crap and they buy it all, and they're swimming 24/7 in a 5G amplified smart house, and their children are being raised in that when their nervous systems and cells and organs are still developing. And on top of that, they have a crappy diet, drink crappy water, think crappy thoughts. For me, oh my God, I just think the negative, like the disease, the health effects are going to be possibly catastrophic. But for the people who already eat well, already implement all the proper principles of health, don't buy all the smart devices. I don't think there's anything to worry about personally. But I mean, I still would encourage people getting further out from the city if they can, because the cities are going to turn into smart grids first. But I don't think the fear is warranted if you're taking precautions in your life. And if you want to take it further, like I know people who are painting their house with paint mixed with orgonite stone crushed up into it, which blocks frequencies from being able to get into the house.
Are those people that are wearing tin foil hats as well?
Well, ironically, that would actually probably work. I know this would require a bit of money, but a friend of mine who's got a fair bit of money and is quite aware, he just built a new house and he built a Faraday cage into the structure of his house, which is like a metal kind of like cage that blocks any outside EMF frequencies from coming in. There's clothing being developed now that blocks EMF from hitting your skin. There's, as I said before, there's many stones like shungite and orgonite stones that protect the energy of your house. You can put plants in your house. So that's why that's why I think it's important to be really aware and really well knowledgeable about 5G, but I don't think we need to be in a state of fear. We just need to take practical steps.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because for me, it was a bit of a eye opener the other day to go bike riding and to find do my little research and find that, wow, I'm like right in the middle of it. But I'm not feeling any symptoms because I do practice a lot what we've been talking about, and I am teaching my daughter as well that we create a really healthy body, then we are resilient and we're able to rise above it, any sort of adversity that we're faced with. But you look for those people that are turning their homes into smart houses or smart lives, following the smart branding. I don't think they should be in fear either, because if they don't have to just go throw everything away. I would think, like you said, get the crystals, get the pot plants, start grounding themselves, breathing into their heart, and start doing some research. Get this book, Free Range Humans. Learn more about the Matrix control system. Now, this word gets me thinking about the movie, The Matrix. So should people maybe go back and start watching that movie and maybe watch it differently with the thought of it being a documentary?
Yeah. I mean, I actually put that status up on Facebook today saying, at what point does The Matrix get relisted as a documentary? Sort of, tongue in cheek, but also serious.
I love it, because I was thinking it exactly. I even made those notes.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie to watch because it's got so many layers. Like, you can watch it just as a fictional movie that's entertaining with action and cool storyline, or you can watch it through a different lens and realize there is an immense amount of truth laid within that movie, especially deep esoteric truth. The more you kind of like quote unquote awaken, the more you realize the layers in that movie. It's definitely one I like to watch probably more every couple of years now, because there's only so many times you can watch it. But it's definitely was a bit of an inspiration for using that term, the Matrix, in my book.
Yeah, and we're talking about the first movie, The Matrix. I think the second one is not. I don't think that it really relates so much. The first one is the one that's really the power.
Yeah, I mean, the second and third one are good, but they get a bit too complex.
Yeah, that's the exact perfect word for it. So we're gonna wrap up soon, and I actually have got this feeling now. I'd like to just bring up one more question, if it's okay with you. Yeah. I've written a story, and the book I've been talking about a lot lately, which is called A Message to Your Younger Self, What Would You Say? And I'd like to ask you that question, Mathew. If you had a moment of opportunity to speak to your younger self today, like in the situation we're in with the global crisis, what is something you would say to your younger self?
I would say to myself, just keep trusting yourself, keep trusting your instincts and your intuition, and just know that no matter how tough it gets, or how much you feel a bit hopeless or in despair, that everything is happening for a reason, and that everything's gonna work out exactly how it's meant to. And I would say that because I look back over my life and everything I've been through, even if it's the deepest suffering and struggle and pain, I can see it all had to happen. It was all necessary for my development to forge me into the person I've become and the person that I, will hopefully become in the future. So the more I've realized that, the more I've just allowed myself to completely kind of trust whatever life gives me.
Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful message to your younger self. Thank you. So you can grab Mathew Stevens' book on his website, seedsofawareness.com.au. It's called Free Range Humans, Exposing the Matrix Control System and Awakening Your True Self. Thanks again, Mathew. Take care.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Lisa.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mathew Stevens, for appearing today. You can purchase his book on his website, seedsofawareness.com.au. That brings us to the end of another episode. Join us next time as I inspire you with a special guest to bring out your best self to live a delicious life. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell. That way, each time a new episode uploads, you will be in the know. And as always, stay delicious. Yummy Mummy Podcast is self-funded. If you feel what I do is important and you would like to see more, please consider making a donation. PayPal.me/Lisa Jane Hussey.